where she's at. I'm covering.
Which was killed.
I've spoken from up.
Okay, we're ready to start our final media availability time for the 2015 session. We're just a few hours now from wrapping it up. We're trying to get through as many of the House bills as we can that are on the board. The House has been prioritizing those bills and getting them over to us, and we've been trying to get through as many of those issues as we can, getting really close to wrapping it up. So let's open it up to questions from the media.
Where do we stand on the gas tax?
Literally, we stand with a conference committee meeting probably now as we speak, trying to work through a few last issues. I think we're really close to coming up with something that both houses can agree on and kind of a compromise. We won't have final notice on that probably for a little while, but there's time enough left to finish that off since the bills have been presented, and now we're just working on conference committee trying to work out a few details. So
we'd be interested in knowing what each of you have heard from your constituents about gasoline taxes. What are they telling you?
Well, I can tell you my constituents are saying, most of the ones that I'm hearing from are saying they understand the need. Obviously, we haven't done anything for the locals for a really long time, close to 20 years, and we're starting to see roads fall apart. When those shoulders on roads start falling apart and you start getting lift and slump in roads, then you have to rebuild. So we've got to get some maintenance back in there, and I think they understand that. I think most of them are saying they'd like to see something that they can understand. They understand a gas tax, per gallon gas tax. It's very transparent. They know what it is. We've got a kind of a blend that we're working on now that would be some gas tax with some inflation number added to it, and possibly a local option for the locals to be able to do even more. So that's what I'm hearing. Senator Adams, what are you hearing?
Yeah, I think when people understand it, they understand there's no inflationary element in gas tax. I mean, we talked before that if you bought a car in 1998 when the gas tax was last passed, you may bought it for $10,000, and now that car costs you $20,000. You paid $600 in sales tax in 1998. Now at $20,000, you pay $1,200. Most of my constituents understand that's not a tax increase. And yet we try to, we're trying to make bricks without straw, because we're saying we want to maintain the roads, we want to take care of the roads, but we don't want any inflation in our gas tax. And we've seen increases in concrete and asphalt and all those type of things. So it's impossible to maintain the roads without keeping up with inflation. And when those constituents, nobody wants a gas tax increase, nobody wants a tax increase, but when they understand it, they get it, and they understand and are supportive of it. So my constituents have been very supportive.
Is the Senate, do you know if the Senate's willing to go back on the increase in registration fees for electric vehicles and compressed natural gas? I think that was one of the things the House wasn't really okay with.
Seemed counterintuitive, to tax people that are trying to make their major purchases to contribute to a solution.
But you have to understand, at the same time, the use on the roads is the same. The pressures on trying to repair the roads are the same. And so that drags the cost. And so there has to be something there to balance that out with that exemption. Yes, they're cleaning the air, but at the same time, they're tearing the roads apart, the same as a gasoline automobile does.
So if they're not paying a gasoline tax like a gasoline vehicle would, they're not paying their share of the maintenance on the roads. And so, yeah, we have incentivized those clean vehicles for a long time, and we'll continue to, even if there is a registration fee on those. But that's certainly one of the things that's still being negotiated, and isn't sure that it will stay in that bill.
Yeah, and I'd like to see more clean vehicles, and it's hard to do that without sometimes incentives. And we talked once about using those registration fees to actually give tax breaks for more vehicles, kind of a repetitive circular type of event to try to bring more clean vehicles on the road. And suppose if we had more time, we'd probably look at that. Maybe that's an idea for another time, but we've got an air quality problem, we all know that. we're trying to make sure we do what we can to solve it. And that idea has been floated out 2 or 3 times, and I actually like that idea.
When we first did the NG idea and exemptions, the idea of getting natural gas cars into that queue was part of the discussion at that time. At a certain point, we knew that there'd be enough vehicles on the road that we'd have to institute something to make that happen.
How do you feel you've done on air quality issues this session?
I think we've taken a nick out of the problem. I think there's a long, long way to go. We aren't there yet. I mean, you know, if we can get the regulation in place to make changes and to clean up the air, we need to start on that. And I think that's the lift that we need to begin. It's going to be an ongoing situation to clean up the air on the front.
So when I look at what was done, I mean, I just looked at a list here, and the president just walked in. He probably had a comment too, but we just passed the largest WP increase since 2008. That's how many years ago was that? That's what, 5-6 years. The largest WP increase. We increased the state employee's salary. We did justice reform. We dealt with non-discrimination in marriage. A pretty big list for this year. So,
Senator Hilliard, you represent a non-attainment area yourself with quite a few drivers. What are your thoughts and what are your constituents telling you about clean air up there?
Well, I think the typical thing is they say they want clean air, and then you ask them what they're willing to do about it. I just look around this room. How many here drove your car up here tonight? And how many rode in 2 cars, or 2 in 1 car, or rode a bike, or took a bus? I mean, we're also used to using our vehicles that we want everyone else to save and cut that down. I think Dr. Red, or Representative Red, has done a great job in our valley acquainting us with the problem, done a lot of work in that area to clean up that area, but we haven't had nearly the problem when we don't have snow on the ground. And I don't know, we need snow. So
Along that line, do you think that the air quality being the way it was this year took away some of the urgency on some of the air quality bills?
well,
Out of sight, out of mind type of
probably.
concept?
yeah.
But let me tell you one that was kind of a sleeper. I don't think anybody really picked up on it. That's going to be probably huge. We just passed Senate Bill, third substitute Senate Bill 216, which will allow refineries to apply for a tax credit if they do infrastructure changes to make Tier 3 gasoline. They can actually apply for the tax credit that is available through that program if they go to the expense of doing the upgrades to their refineries that will allow them to move quicker. Certainly incentivize them to move quicker towards Tier 3 gasoline. It's probably the most important thing we can do, because moving to the Tier 3 gasoline and having that capability is going to clean the air up much more than all of the little things that we talked about. And they're important too. We're trying to do everything we can. It's important to the economy of our state. But that one has the possibility of really making a big difference for those refineries to be able to move quicker to Tier 3 gasoline.
And let's acknowledge the progress we've made. Over the last decade, our air has gotten a lot cleaner. Amazing. And we already have regulation in place. We'll have substantial gains in clean air over the next 10 years as people can afford buying new cars with new emission standards on them. As we get Tier 3 fuels, low sulfur fuels, those are big gains. Those are amazing gains to getting clean air in this valley. And when you have an inversion, a campfire is going to create dirty air here, because all that smoke is going to stay in this valley. So we will make significant gains towards clean air just by what we have in place, as people are able and can buy new cars with those emission standards on. Then we've got to look at some other big things. The big things are buildings, your home, heating your home. That's a big thing. You've got to look at the cars. Homes, cars, buildings, that's 85% of our problem. And so we've got regulation in place already that will do more than anything that we can even start to do with natural gas or wood burning or any of those issues. Those help, but the big gains are going to be in emission restricted vehicles and low sulfur fuels. So it's the last night. I can't even talk anymore. So let's acknowledge that we already have in place some amazing things to clean the air, and yes, natural gas buses, that'll help. Let's do that. And we work towards that this year. We've got a couple. Did we get $1 million? $2 million?
$2 million.
Over for those types of things. That'll help. And folks, walk to church. Ride your bike to the store if you're just going down for a drink or something. It's amazing what gains we can get just by changing your lifestyle. But until, as Senator Hilliard says here, until people are willing to really get serious about it and change their habits, that's where the big gains are. So we're hoping that people will get out, walk to church, ride your bike. We're hoping we've passed the local option now that could be elected, be voted on by the people, which will create a revenue stream for roads, active transportation like pedestrians, bicycles. So it's a very broad-based use of those funds, and that's actually probably one of the biggest clean air things that we'll do in this session, because we'll incentivize more trails, more bike lanes, we're going to be able to repair the sidewalks. And so I think let's celebrate the things that we have done and we've got in place, because they're significant.
We've done great on our socks. What we need to do is get our knocks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. The socks our SOCs are much, much better and cleaner than they've ever been. But it's our PMs, our NOx emissions, that we really need to start working on to clean the air even better, especially in inversions, because it's the NOx or the particulate matter that gets caught in the inversions that makes the air really, really good.
So I've got to share a story, and I hope I'm not telling stories on the president, but Memorial Day, I left my house and I was headed over to my daughter's house, and I live in Layton, east of Highway 89, and the road that feeds out onto 89, I just kind of stopped at it and looked up, and here came a guy on a bike, and he crossed the road in front of me, and I think of this, the probability of this on Memorial Day, of me happy to be on Highway 89, and I looked up and I said, that looks like President Niederhauser, Wayne Niederhauser, and I took a look, and sure enough, I pulled up on 89, I had to honk and wave. I don't know if that was, wasn't a political season.
Run me off the road.
I kept my 3-foot distance. So
they were both speedy.
But I talked to him later, and he was on his way from Sandy to Logan to meet with his family on Memorial Day. Now that's really, that's pretty good air quality.
He had a cold start bill a few years ago on bicycles, as I remember. Do you recall that one?
Yeah.
It had to do with not having to necessarily make a full stop at a...
I was the Senate sponsor. It was a House bill. I remember.
I think he's doing
the rolling stop.
Right.
He's doing his part to try to clean up the air.
I think
Yeah, we all
Jason
just need
Williams
to do
rode
that.
down here today on his bicycle.
Good job, Jason.
Good to see you, Jason.
Juggling all the way, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Not to change the subject, but I'm going to change the subject.
Okay.
Much to the chagrin of the state Republican Party, the Senate decided not to, even the House decided not to delay the implementation of SB 54 a year. What kind of consequences do you see that having, if any, not delaying SB 54 until after 2016?
Well, we'll fully implement SB 54 next year. That was the compromise last year. Senator Bramble did pass a bill to kind of clean up some of the language. And so
And the lieutenant governor requested and received almost $250,000 to implement it. So it's not going to be a simple thing to be implemented. He wanted $240,000, as I remember the figure, in his office just to get ready for Senate Bill 54.
So we're going to see how it works.
So you don't, do you not buy into what James Evans says that, you know, this will have some dire consequences for Republican candidates?
Well, dire consequences?
As in not being able to be on the ballot as a Republican?
The way that I understand the law, and we maybe have to get Senator Bramble in here, I don't see it as a big, I think that the pressures are going to be too great, that there's going to be the parties making some adjustments so they have an opportunity to put candidates on the ballot. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? And then you have the alternative path to the ballot. So, you know, I'm sure, I'll bet every one of our senators that are up for election will be out, you know, in some way collecting signatures and starting in January.
In terms of heavy lifting and impactful legislation, the other day the governor said he hadn't seen anything like this year in his time in office. Do you guys agree with that? And if you do, looking back on the session, how has it gone and how have you done as a Senate with those issues?
Certainly the most heavy lifting that we've done since I've been in the Senate. Really heavy issues that we've kind of known for a number of years that we have to deal with. Transportation is a good example of that. We've known we've got this backup of needs out there. We know that we've got water needs with the growth that we're going to have. We know that we've known for a couple of years that we have some decisions to make on Medicaid, on health care coverage. And this year it just got to the point where this was the year to do something, and I think early in the fall we decided that we're going to tackle these issues this year, and the consequences of that are really heavy lifting and a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, a lot of hard work behind the scenes to get ready to have these kind of discussions. And so we end up, as Senator Adams said, with unprecedented funding for education. With the Senate Bill 97 that Senator Osmond passed, that adds nearly another, if you equated that to EPU, or the WPU.
It is late. We're all tired.
It would end up being close to another 3%. And we did the 4% on the WPU, plus some program funding that we put into education out there. So it was a great year for education. We had a little bit of extra money, so we were able to increase salaries for public employees and for higher ed. And I know some of our corrections officers who work in our prisons across the state and our county jails that have state inmates have finally been able to see enough of an increase that they may be able to have a family-sustaining income as a result of this year. We've done a lot of good things this year. When you look at the entire budget and what we did with it, the economic development things that we've done will pay off for decades, and the preparations that we've made to get ready to get going on water projects and the transportation needs that we have out there. Those are decades kinds of influence that we're going to have from the hard work that we've put into this session. And there's just been a lot of work going on behind the scenes on Medicaid, and I think we're going to get to a good solution there. That's going to be something that's good, and may take some time. But man, those are big issues that we dealt with.
And we've got even bigger issues. Those issues are going to, as our population grows, they're going to be continued challenges year after year. And I think we showed that we can do some heavy lifting. And the one thing is we've got some heavy lifting to do into the future. I mean,
Yeah, there's only so much heavy lifting you can do in one session.
45 days.
Yeah, 45 days.
I think we've done a great job this year. I've seen us make more progress on issues this year than any other year that I've been in the legislature.
Even did some school reform along with all the funding that Turner's bill.
Focused on the lowest performing schools. We've given them an injection of money and help to help those schools that are challenged. You know, they have a challenged demographic, and hopefully we'll get the help that they need to lift the proficiency levels of those students. There are things happening out there that are pretty amazing now. Now that we know there's some proven models out there, and schools are being turned around and children are being helped, and we funded $7 million to do that this year. All right, any other questions? Thank you very much. It's been nice to have these little chats.
We're gonna miss you. What am I gonna do tomorrow at noon?
Wake up. Give Senator Adams a
Well,
call.
I mean, you can come to the studio and we can put you on
No,
camera.
that's okay.
I do have to say that the reason I drove was because the buses stop at 6:30. So I'm taking a bus at midnight.